Before this video presentation or essay begins, I want you to do something for me. It's free. Go to the subscribe button under this video and then like and subscribe. Also, hit the little bell right next to the subscribe button so you'll be alerted whenever I add a new presentation or essay. When you're finished, share this video with people you think might benefit from it. This way, you're letting YouTube know what I offer is important. What's more, you will be helping me in my mission to educate and grow this channel. Thank you so much. Hi, Dr. Cynthia Lee Smith here with another essay and discussion with regard to race, racism, white supremacy, racist color, racist character. These are the two things that I'll be talking about today. Racist color, racist character. In my book, I discuss that in a lot of detail, how during the post-racial colorblind era, racist color was replaced with racist character, with the character of black people already having been defined in the 70s as criminals. You know, we went through the 60s, say, with black is beautiful and I'm black and I'm proud, and then it was transformed for us via the medium of entertainment or the institution of entertainment into hoes and pimps and drug dealers and drug addicts and prostitutes and, you know, just about every manner of criminal character. So just keep that in mind. This is an essay. Well, let me just say first, I don't generally critique movies, theater, plays, works of literature, television shows, unless they have something that inspires me to talk about it. Now, this one in particular struck me, and as I was watching this series, I got into a discussion with my daughter, who's an actress, and she's also a director, and she is a professor of acting. She's an acting professor. And I was discussing with her casting. And I was discussing with her the irony of how diversity is treated within the institution of entertainment and among other institutions. We've had some very in-depth discussions, and in fact, she wrote a paper that I wish I wrote on diversity. Maybe I might discuss that on another video essay. Anyway, this essay is entitled Maid, a critical discussion of when equal opportunity in entertainment fails in white America. And put my glasses on. I used to be, I'm nearsighted, and there was a time when I could see better without my glasses close up. That ship has sailed. Don't get old, okay? But anyway, I'm digressing. All right. Far more often than I care to, I find myself doing what people could call overthinking a meme, a movie, a television show, or some other form of communication or expression where the institution of entertainment is usually the intent of the expression. I don't see it that way, since part of my mission to educate is to critically think about those everyday kinds of things we take for granted and for which only surface interest and attention is usually applied. There's so much out there that we just look at superficially. Ooh, I like her. Like, for example, I'm just throwing this out there. You know, you have people out here who are literally exhibitionists. Now, they'll give their own excuses as to why they want to walk around half naked, but that's their business. But they're still exhibitionists. So the question is, you know, do we want to dig into and beyond the surface of those behaviors, or what? Well, for me, race, racist color, racist character, racism, and white supremacy is something I like to dig up into. Not necessarily whether somebody wants to walk around half naked in the industry. Anyway, I digress again. Well, for this reason, very often I will get responses like, I never thought of it that way, or it never occurred to me, or I didn't see this at first. Now, I get that a lot on, Facebook, because that's where I find most of the misleading kinds of memes and statements and different things. Sometimes not even intentionally, but they have a surface value that people will look at, and they don't go beyond the surface. Okay, so when I do, you get people who, among those who say, you're don't you can't you take a joke, or that those kinds of things. I also get the dag, I didn't even see it that way. Those are the critical thinkers. Okay, those are the ones who say, let me look at this another way. Okay, well, these are all great responses, because it means I've made them think about something much more critically and offered an alternative that they did not originally consider, and that's my mission. But having thought it through, they begin, perhaps for the first time, to see the kinds of things I see all the time, because I keep my lenses on. There are at least two generations of black people who were lulled into a false sense of security that pretended race as color had been replaced with race as character, when the only thing that changed was the way race could be manipulated into being seen through character. I want to repeat that. There are at least two generations of black people who were lulled into a false sense of security that pretended race as color had been replaced by character, when the only thing that changed was the way race could be manipulated into being seen through character, seen through the character of individuals. Okay? Characterized almost exclusively by two specific bastions of racism and white supremacy. And what are those? The institutions of criminal justice and the law, and entertainment. So, while watching the series Maid on Netflix, I got one of those moments when if I only looked on the surface, which I secretly wish I had the capacity to do when it comes to living within this paradoxical, racist, white supremacist-filled institution of entertainment, I would say, now how's that for equal opportunity? Chalk one up for equal opportunity. A black woman was cast as the wealthy one, surrounded by white struggle for a change. It's certainly not unheard of to see successful black people uh, in roles, and sometimes it works in those roles, and sometimes it works depending on the plot and the storyline. Yet this one gave me a moment where my inner "these jokers are doing it again" kicked in and gave me pause, along with a rather prolonged hmm hmm. Sometimes I wish I didn't have to go but like my friend Sheila says, things that make you go hmm. So I began to watch it a little more critically. Now, It's not that the series is poorly acted, quite the contrary. I almost immediately gravitated toward the characters and got to know them, which is important to keep my interest in any series. That's I have to know these people. I have to know the people being portrayed, the characters, their character. See, and you have to understand, I'm not playing on that word, but I want you to pay attention because later on I'm going to explain why I'm using character in the two different ways. So it's not as though the series is poorly acted. And furthermore, I consider it good. It's a good show as these types of shows go. I mean, because I have at least 56 years. I mean, I'm 67. I'll be 68 in a couple of months. But I have at least a good 56 years of watching white people on television and movies. You know, ever since I was a little kid, 5, 6 years old. TV ain't but about 50-some years old, 60 years old. And I'm used to watching white people being white people. You know, I'm used to it. That's okay. I'm used to all white casts about problems that could be considered universal, as well as uniquely white people problems. I mean, this is, you know, if I wanted to look at this on the surface, I could say, yeah, this is interesting. In fact, this is actually a little unique because they don't usually cast, they don't usually show. You might see it in documentaries and things, but you don't actually see, you know, I mean, look on Lifetime. Every last person has a house to die for, living alone as single parents. You wonder why they got these humongous doors on the homes. They're beautiful homes, like just gorgeous. You know what I mean? So they don't really show you this part of their existences. Nevertheless, with all that being said, the show is also a disappointment. And here's the problem for me. The show made a feeble, and I underscore feeble, attempt at equalizing the races using their own class caste structure and behavior, which fails miserably in this instance. It doesn't always fail, but it failed in this instance with this show. Now I have to point out that this show comes from a book, and I'm sure that the writer had not thought of using a black woman in the role that was cast, for which she was cast. But stay with me. So, you know, it to me, it sends a message all too clear that this critical thinker, when it comes to me as a critical thinker, when it comes to the subliminal racialized intent inherent within white-centered entertainment offerings, and this struggle movie is really no different, I don't even think it's intentional, which it sometimes is. And of course, not everyone will catch it, which is why I decided to discuss it. See, the movie, it makes a feeble attempt at equalizing the races using their own subjugation and behavior. Okay? Okay. Not everybody's going to catch it, because if you're not really looking, you're not going to see it. So there is an important question I find almost impossible to fathom a guess as to an answer. And here's the question. Why do most white people in the entertainment industry think they must create and maintain a level of animus for the black character using race as character? And I'm not talking about the actor. I'm talking, okay, I don't want to go beyond myself. This is not just a play on the term character. I'm going to start this over again because I want you to be very clear on what it is I'm saying here. There is an important question I find almost impossible to fathom a guess as to an answer. that question is, why do most white people in the entertainment industry think they must create and maintain a level of animus for the black character using race as character? This is not just a play on the term character, but an attempt to help you understand the nature of terms used in the entertainment industry, where the character of an individual is defined by the writers, the producers, the directors, who then hire actors to play the character. Understand, this is not really the character as a person, but the character of the person. Do you get me when I say that? They're playing the character of the person. This is what the actor does. The actor is taking the character, what we call our character. What is your character? How do you express your character? Is it good? Is it bad? Do you understand what I'm saying? See, when you understand these terms and you understand what they really mean, a character is not an actor. The character is the behavior of the actor playing a role. Okay? All right. So, we are conditioned to believe in actors, people, who play characters, people. See, where the character is people. When the reality is they are actors who play the character defined by the role. This is why you have people who are known specifically as character actors. They're character actors as opposed to leading people, where they don't really have to do anything but be themselves generally. Or they're playing the character of the person who was conjured up in the mind of the writer. I hope you get me. Okay? The character is literally created and then acted out. Do you get me? I hope you get me. Okay? So this is a story about the struggle for white people stuck within their own form of subjugation. It is an economic class caste struggle where all of the same elements can apply to any other group of human beings, but the writers, producers, and directors take great pains to establish this series as a white, or in their own term, trash struggle for a better life. If you have watched this series, or you know, I don't know, this would be for people who have seen the series. They go to great pains to show whiteness, trash that. They want you to know that this is who this story is about. The white people who are considered the trash, the forgotten ones, the ones who they don't generally see. So they're exposing this inner kind of this struggle, which is real. There is a struggle. There are people, white people, who fit this narrative, okay, in real life. So, but it is the side of white life that they don't typically care to allow the world to see. Then, in a twist I would normally expect to see in a plot such as this, they chose to place a black woman in it. Well, I'll be darned. They actually found a place for a black actor, because there are two. Okay? There are two. How's that for diversity? And she's cultured. wealthy, and if you consider her as living within that white economic class structure, she represents 0.1% of black people at that level. And we got to be realistic about this, okay? Let's be realistic. Of course, she is one of two of the only black cast members in the series as recurring actors, and the other actor's character, she's very well suited for it. The character, this role's character, is most suited to be in the position that she portrays, because you can see, one could see a black person in this role. However, they saw fit to cast the very wealthy. Now, I want you to pay attention. They saw fit to cast the very wealthy, and I mean very wealthy. That house was, you hear me? By any standard, this house was banging, okay? And they chose to cast the very wealthy black character as an uncaring, rich bitch without any humanity. Zero. Zilch. She has absolutely no empathy until at least 8 episodes into the series. Seriously. When she begins to show a modicum of compassion for the maid. But the undertones of uppity black woman, as well as angry black woman, is extremely palpable. So it would seem in this series of only 2 black women being represented in it, the average struggling black woman who is running, so to speak, this house for battered women has some humanity. But if she's got some money, if this woman, if that's cool. But if she's got some money, well, one would ask though. See, because this is what my detractors will say. One could ask, isn't that to be expected among the very wealthy? Isn't that behavior normal for them? Why must you interject race into everything? Is it expected that it is expected that we believe this behavior exists, and surely many have experienced it firsthand. After all, it's an archetype. Therefore, race has nothing to do with it. There's no place for race in this scenario. You always gotta put race in it. Race ain't in everything. Well, here's where I actually differ dramatically and forthrightly with all of those previous statements to the contrary. Race is in everything. Racism is in everything. White supremacy, supremacism, is in everything. The question is whether you choose to acknowledge that fact or not, and if you do, to what extent you acknowledge it. Let me repeat that. Race is in everything. Racism is in everything. White supremacy is in everything. The question is whether you choose to acknowledge that fact or not, and if you do, to what extent you acknowledge it. We live in a culture where most white people have only just begun to see the disparities within criminal justice. Yet another institution, because of the open brutality of the police state for black people. And some are only just becoming aware of the fragility of their own democracy. It's what you're hearing on TV today. Our democracy is at risk. You wasn't worried about the democracy back in the 50s and the 40s and the 30s and the 20s. You're only considering that today because you see how your own democracy can be affected. Okay? They're just becoming aware of the fragility of their own democracy because of the widening threat to the democracy of black people, whose votes many of them need to keep authoritarianism at bay. They need us. The ones who don't want authoritarianism and fascism, and that's knocking on the door. Many do not even believe racism exists systemically or structurally, as evidenced by the fear toward critical race theory, which places racism squarely into institutional systemic structures in which entertainment and justice reside. That's the fear of critical race theory. Because people will begin to look at how it is embedded structurally within all institutions, which means it's in everything. All areas of human activity, including behavior. Some will not even consider the effects of messages that are sent every day through the medium of entertainment, whether in music, acting, or other forms. People delude themselves into believing that entertainment is not a form of conditioning. That is its purpose. It's entertaining, but it's for conditioning. If you look back into the history, I think there's some references to it around the time of Shakespeare even, and a little bit before that entertainment was used as a way to lull the citizens into complacency. That's conditioning. In fact, both white and black people will not hearken upon this fact of reality in this country, which is how the institution of entertainment literally shapes the narrative of black character through racist character. Anika Noni Rose as Regina is thoroughly convincing in her role, which attests to her acting chops. She's performing her job very well and is entirely believable in that role. It's because she's a great actress. She's really, really good. The reality, of course, is quite different. And I'm talking about the reality of life. It's quite different. We know this series is not meant to illustrate fantasy. It's meant to illustrate a reality of white life. Trash life. White life. Poor white life. And the struggle. That's what it's meant to illustrate. Okay? We know this series is not meant to illustrate fantasy, but a microcosm of the average white person and their struggle. So it presupposes that this role is considered a true and honest portrayal of wealthy black women. Because this is what this whole series is showing, supposed to be showing an honest look at this woman's situation. And it's not meant to be considered fantasy. So let's think about that. Still, when you consider the wealth gap among white and black families at $171,000 net for a typical white family and 17,150 net for a typical black family, it is 10 times less likely that the experience of a white maid in a black family home will ever be a true and honest portrayal, when only 1 out of 10 of these average net worth stats would remotely indicate black wealth. Moreover, the listed information for typical, I'm using the term typical, white family net worth is considered average. Okay, we're talking about the average white family. That would put the Maid characterization in a class of white people most white people don't even try to see. And I would suppose that that was the impetus for the series, because most people don't even try to see that part. Like I said, all you got to do is look at Lifetime, Movie Network, and every single white family, they either come from money, got some money, or if they're poor, they're still living better than the average black family at $17,150 net worth to $171,000 average white family net worth. But hey, it's just entertainment. This is just entertainment. I mean, I could just say, oh, F it. This is just entertainment. Why am I even getting into a discussion like this? Well, I'm doing that because that's who I am. Okay, but people could say, why are you even? Because I've gotten, trust me, I've gotten a lot of comments. You can find this written essay on the Baldwin on Medium, on medium.com. And I'm happy to say it was Medium's curators chose a wider distribution. So head on over there and follow me on Medium. It's just entertainment. Why am I even getting into a discussion about it? Why am I even concerned? It's nothing to see here. Or perhaps is what they want you to think and expect about wealthy black women. Messages being what they are. If you think I'm being unrealistic about perceptions people get and narratives that are put in front of people and narrative shaping in terms of race as character for black people, ask any resident of this country who has never set eyes on a black person in life what they think about the character of black people. And then ask yourself, where do you think they got their perceptions? %100% of the time they'll tell you it was from TV and movies. If you think that institution of entertainment doesn't have an impact on the character, air quotes, of black people and how they're perceived, to add insult, and perhaps to appease the supremacy gods and the MAGA crowd, the writers ensured, this is what I mean by creating and maintaining that animus about the character of black people, no matter how subtly they try to portray that. The writers ensured that her character would literally lack the very thing that black people are stereotyped into living in real life every day by white people. And what is that thing, you might ask? That thing is humanity. We're not human. We're not considered human. And I don't mean human as opposed to an animal, but human. And empathy. is a human quality. So what they do is humanity through empathy, so necessary as a human characteristic. Pay attention, people. Race as character. Characteristic. This, of course, is sorely lacking in this actor's portrayal of her character's character. You know what I do with words. Now you know I'm going to take the word and I'm going to make it make sense for you. And what subliminal message is lurking underground, you might ask? One that I can't seem to shrug off. And I did more, but there's one that I can't seem to shrug off. And it is that all the money in the world will not make you human. We can even be poor white trash and we'll still be more human than you. Yeah, that's what I got. Among a few other things I was getting from not from her portrayal. She was great. But you have to understand the institution of entertainment and its intent and purpose in this racialized, paradoxical, racist, and white supremacist nation that we live in. Okay, you can't like this black rich woman. You got to hate her. I mean, ideally you gonna hate her anyway. If you white, you gonna hate her anyway because she got money, because she uppity. But then you give her the nerve. She got the nerve to look down her nose on this white woman. She's looking down her nose at this white woman. Who the hell does she think she is? So they gonna make sure you hate her. Even all through the movie. you really don't like her. She's not likable. And that's not to say that every black woman has to be likable on TV. Something about this one though. You see, there is always that we are better than you, supremacy strain, loaded in. Markers that appear always, sometimes more profoundly, but often subtly, even when they may think they are creating equality through diversity and inclusion for roles by casting black people in roles actually designed for themselves. On a very elementary level, it is just as ridiculous as inserting themselves as saviors where they see fit in stories with predominantly black actors. It's the same kind of thing. You ain't got to put yourself in there and make yourself so special. Just like you don't have to put us in there just to throw us in there and say, okay, we got a black person in this role. We got black people in the series. We met our diversity quota. The sad fact is, when black actors are added to the roster of recurring roles, there are no voices to tell white people that they are centering themselves around themselves without considering reality when they are attempting to portray reality. Let me repeat that. When black actors are added to the roster of recurring roles, there are no voices to tell white people they are centering themselves around themselves without considering reality when they are attempting to portray reality, and I will add the little caveat of the black experience and black expression. Even when they give the black viewer a wealthy black woman, it is only in consideration of their own view of that woman and what they think about her, what? Her character. And black people are supposed to be grateful that we're being included We're supposed to be thankful for the equal opportunity. Am I saying you should let this series pass and not watch it? Not at all. If you haven't seen it, watch it. Please watch it. If you already have, watch it again with new lenses on. What I am saying is there is such a strong need for more black writers, casting professionals, producers, and directors at the tables. That way, there won't be a thought to casting a black actor simply because they think they need to show diversity, but because the role is right for that actor. A writer or director can stop the scene to say, she wouldn't act like this, or this is the way this scene should go, or no black woman would do this. And a producer can say, this entire production needs to be reflective of reality if we're going to attempt to portray reality. Now, this brings my essay to a close, but I did want to also share just a couple of the comments that I received as a result. Now, I did post one of them because I decided to respond to this one. Because, I'm not sure. This particular person, I'm not really sure what his motive was, but he seemed to understand in his next comment that he gave me. He says, Tom Clancy said the difference between reality and fiction is fiction has to be credible. Right? I don't think it was an accident they cast a black woman in the role, probably trying to highlight the impact of wealth and class on society. Okay. But a statement like, now I want you to hear this because I just want you to hear this because then you'll understand my response. But a statement like no black woman would do this seems to try to deny black women black women their humanity. He thinks what he's doing here is he thinks that he is addressing my comment about the loss of one's humanity. He's saying that because I said no black women would do this. Now keep in mind, this is not in relation to this show. This is a general comment in the last paragraph, which is generalized to talk about what we need. Okay? So he says, are we saying that they aren't saying that they aren't capable of good and evil or just being an asshole? Should there be no black villains in storytelling? So I had to respond to him because he was asking some his questions were valid. I said there are many kinds of behaviors that I can state without equivocation black women would not exhibit, and many statements and mannerisms that would not be made when compared to our white counterparts. Is it a matter of color? No, not really. Except that the identification using color has been fixed in the national culture since its inception to differentiate the individual cultures of people that arose generations ago, and specifically to differentiate the enslaved from the free. Because of this, we do behave differently in many situations. For example, we do not dress up in whiteface and exhibit behavior demeaning or deemed superior toward white people, nor do we storm federal capitol buildings and defecate on the walls and believe we are entitled to have done so. We use different language expressions unique to our own experiences, many of which go all the way back to the enslavement. Hey, and most of it gets appropriated. But it starts with us. So there are some differences in behavior, not genes, not color, behavior and culture. It is ludicrous to suggest black people are not capable of good and evil in reality or in storytelling. Yet it is also painfully evident that the black character in American theater and film has always been typically portrayed as the villain throughout history. I mean, that first movie, what was it? America something or other. Right after Reconstruction. I mean, it was Woodrow Wilson played the movie in the White House because he just loved it so much. Where they showed the black rapists. Of course, black people weren't allowed to be in the movie, but they painted themselves up in blackface, and the black person was the villain. It started there, and even before that, before movies, with minstrels and carrying on, we were always the lazy, man type of person. Okay. So throughout history, they've been trying to portray us in particular ways that were demeaning to our character. Okay? So to suggest otherwise is as bright as the fire in a gaslight. So basically, I was being cute when I said, don't try to gaslight me, MFer. You messing with the wrong one. Okay? To suggest otherwise is as bright as the fire in a gaslight. Tom Clancy was right in his explanation of reality and fiction, inasmuch as fiction has to be considered credible and be as truthful as possible. That is what I learned in my master's program in writing studies. Yeah, I threw that in there. Just in case the next part was, where did you get your education? or what degrees get to talk about my what I got there. What credentials did you get in our world? What credentials do you have in white people land? Because that's the only thing we're going to look at. This renders your second paragraph a bit telling. And this is what his second paragraph was about. That whole part about, what did he say? He said, but a statement like, no black woman should do this. Okay, so he says, I said, this renders your second paragraph a bit telling. I suggest you reread it and begin to think critically about pulling out any unconscious bias you may hold relative to what I am actually conveying in my essay. I believe you were triggered, and it was pulled when you read no black woman would do this, which caused you to consider the purpose of intentionally casting a black woman for the role of the rich bitch as an affront to what you suggest in your third paragraph. However, just as there are more than enough instances highlighting the impact of wealth and class on society in movies, books, television, and theater already, there are practically none where the focus on whiteness is used as the juxtaposition of a realistic poor white and wealthy black experience. Where they at? I'm sure there are some, but I'd be hard pressed to find them that are portrayed in this way. Among other subliminal suggestions, what it does, now I want you to pay attention to this. This is what I told him. I said, among other subliminal suggestion, what it does is play into the age-old retributive rationale. Remember the retributive rationale, that retribution thing, that they feel like, it's behind the fear of many white people, what they hold about black people, treating them the same way if the tables were turned. So it's kind of like that kind of thing. It's like, okay, you put the wealthy black woman on top, and we know what the reality is, how black people have been generationally treated. So, flip that script. Wouldn't we treat them the same way? I didn't write this in there, but I wanted to say so bad. Man, we be praying. When you attack us, we sit up here and we pray for you. We got judges that'll come down off the bench and kiss the person that killed a black man. Hug and kiss her and tell her everything's gonna be all right after she gets convicted for murdering a black man minding his own business in his own apartment. And they get on TV and they, want to forgive everybody. Okay? That's the reality. So when I say that Anika Noni Rose's portrayal was realistic and believable, I say that because she's a good actress. Regardless of her skin tone, she's a good actress. So she portrayed that character, the character of the role, very well. Because that's what she was supposed to do. That's what she was hired to do. But if they were trying to do a portrayal of someone in reality, as a realistic expression, a realistic experience, she was playing a fantasy portrayal, as far as I'm concerned, in that instance. Okay? So I said, I talked about the tables being turned, but then in the end, and my last paragraph to him was, in essence, you don't need a black character to highlight the impact of wealth and class on society. You don't need that. Unless you're trying to send a specific message about the prospect of black wealth and class on society, if in reality, black people were at the top of the economic class created for white people. And they were at the bottom, where black people are on that chain today. So basically, it's like, ooh, kid, if we were on the top, this is how we would be treating y'all. Get out of here. That's a GT. What's that? GTFOH. Okay. Okay, so I got a couple of interesting ones where it says, I devoured your article relating to what you wrote. When I moved to Los Angeles years ago in pursuing acting, it became very clear to me that entertainment is education, and that most of the images and sounds we consume are used to mold our perceptions of ourselves and the world around us. Oh, she got it. Films, television programs, and advertisements tell us who should be living in which neighborhoods, pursuing certain careers, and driving particular cars. When we reminisce on our youth, we often talk about the music we listened to and how it informed who we knew, what we wore, and how we should sound. None of it is coincidence. That's right. And here was one, and I'll just do one more. I agree with your observations and would like to add this to the pot. The main character's unwillingness to allow the woman to provide a home and stable employment for her and her daughter. She was paying attention. The main character's unwillingness to allow the black woman to provide a home and stable employment for her and her daughter. Now, she had that opportunity. Okay? Who could not be proud? Who could be that proud? Living in a DV shelter with a limited income and no real family support. Was it the main character's white privilege that wouldn't allow her to accept the black woman's generous offer? Well, I don't know whether it was privilege, but because she obviously wasn't privileged, but I think that it was her feigned supremacy. It was her supremacism kicking in. Yeah, I would definitely say that. She says, I do realize that the main character was willing to take the offer of free legal services, but was that her way of putting boundaries around the level of help she would receive from the wealthy black woman? Just another point I found interesting. She was paying attention. She was paying attention. Okay? And I had one other one. There was one where this guy was real pissed off because he says he highlighted a comment that I made where I said in the essay where I said, so it presupposes this role is considered a true and honest portrayal of wealthy black women. It tickles me how, and the two people who had contrary kinds of thinking, of course, they were white. And that's why I responded to the one. But for the second one, for this guy, and I said I was going to only do one more. For this one, I did tell him, I said, at the risk of repeating myself, just read the response I gave to, and I gave him the name of the dude that I gave the response to. Because he goes, wait a minute. Why is it that every character of color has to be representative of every person of that color caste station? If the character of Regina were to be portrayed by a white actor, it sounds like she would have been a bit cliche. The unempathetic, self-possessed, rich white bitch. Well, why didn't they just cast her as such? Would rich white women have felt compelled to complain about how they were being portrayed on the screen? No, there would be no reason to. Why do and it makes me ask myself, why do you even try to find equivalence in our experiences? Because there is none. That's the whole point. There's no equivalency. There's no equality in our respective experiences. So why do you constantly try to find it where it does not exist? There is no equivalency. There is no commonality. There is no equality. That is what if we weren't 0.1% of that wealthy crew, if our net worth wasn't 17,500 but was 171,500 equally, then perhaps what he said there would make sense. But then there would be no need for this discussion at all. I wouldn't need to even talk about it. Which is why there wouldn't be any need for there to be any discussion among white people about the rich white bitch. We know she exists. She's far more common than we know. Than they know. Actors of color have complained, parentheticals, justifiably. See, got to throw that in. Yeah, we were justified. Thank you for adding that in as an afterthought. Actors of color have complained justifiably for decades about the stereotypical roles they are repeatedly offered. Regina appears to be a character that defies stereotype. Really? Really? And still, complaints. And not from the actor, by the way. And still complaints. Look what we're doing for you. We're putting you in these roles. this, we're including you, and you still have to complain. Now, didn't I write in my essay, I said we're supposed to be grateful and thankful for these equal opportunities, so-called? So, if there's a problem with this character, it must be in how the character is written, not in the color of her skin. Well, duh! Isn't that what I said? If you were paying attention, writer of this comment, you would know that this is exactly what I'm saying. And please, and this is another parenthetical, and please, must every character in a teleplay, regardless of race, carry the responsibility to educate? Tell that. I'm starting to get kind of pissed reading this again. I didn't even get all the way to the end when I read it the first time. That's why I'm getting a little hot and bothered. See, cause here it is, and they throw this in as a parenthetical. These tickle me, because parentheticals are always the afterthoughts. And please, must every character in a teleplay, regardless of race, carry the responsibility to educate? Don't ask me. Ask the movie industry. Ask the entertainment industry. The people who literally do that. Okay? They literally call it educate, call it condition. But this is what they do. This is their purpose. This is their intent. And once you understand that, then everything else begins to make sense. It's designed to entertain as it teaches, as it educates, as it indoctrinates, as it conditions, as it creates the narrative of the character of an entire race of people. As far as I'm concerned, the only criteria for criticism should be, is this a real human being living in and responding to a real life situation and interacting with the other characters in a believable way? And since this is entertainment after all, oh, he's just saying everything I just said. Jesus, he's just telling all over himself. Just telling on himself. Just telling all over himself. Just telling all over himself here. He says, since this is entertainment after all, in a way that hooks the audience and engages viewers in a story, a no answer provides solid grounds for criticism. That part doesn't make sense. But this writer begins the piece, meaning me. He says, but this writer begins the piece admitting she finds the character and the actor's performance both compelling and believable. Finding other reasons to criticize a piece of entertainment is just... What's this, baby? You couldn't wait.
I know, I'm talking about after.
Okay. All right. Anyway, but this writer, see, of course, she was excellent in her portrayal of the character of the rich bitch. That was her job. Did she have to be cast in that role? No. Mm-mm. Finding other reasons to criticize a piece of entertainment is just looking for an argument. So that's what he said. That's what he said. Yeah. So I'm just looking for an argument. Yeah, you damn right I'm looking for an argument. A nice critical one. One that makes sense. Because he obviously is not looking past the surface. Because he doesn't want to see the racism and the white supremacy. He doesn't want to see it. As far as he's concerned, that doesn't even exist here. What are you talking about? The heck are you talking about, Missy? This is entertainment. A piece of entertainment. What are you talking about? Well, that is what I was talking about. And that is what I'm going to continue to talk about until I die. Or until this country gets to the point where I don't have to do it anymore. And people like that dude who doesn't see beyond the superficial can watch it and just say, yeah, it was good, it was bad, it was indifferent, whatever. But that they're not using racist character to define black people. Once again. No matter how subtle, they try to do it. And in the name of diversity, killing two birds with one stone here as far as I'm concerned. So, anyway, as always, head over to my YouTube channel where this will find its way and subscribe to my channel. Go to medium.com and follow me there. And this essay, along with the video, when I finish putting together this video and dressing it up for YouTube, will be on my website at www.celis-writer.com. I'm hoping that everybody made it. I see some comments, and I'm hoping that you will like this video and share this video. And God knows if you got some issues with what I wrote, or if you want to talk about it, put it in a discussion. I'll be going into the discussion later, and I will comment on your comments, and I will acknowledge your comments after this video is over. Okay? All right. It's good to know that you're here. I appreciate you. Please share this video with anyone that you think might be interested. Facebook tries to has shadow banned me, and I've been shadow banned. Now I know what it's called. I found out what it's called. I've been shadow banned. That means that they deliberately lower your what you put out. They make sure that not many people see it. So get on my page, find my stuff, share it. Okay? Share it with your friends, because otherwise when I share, it doesn't go anywhere. That way more people will, if they feel like they can benefit from what I'm saying, they can get a benefit. All right, I'll talk to you later. Getting ready to go. Doctor's out. Take care.